Hello, my lovely. We know as women with adult diagnosed ADHD that we did not get to where we are right now by doing things the way everyone else did, right? We know we felt like the weirdo in the room. I know I did for a long fucking time. We're natural born storytellers, we're disruptors, and we love to shake shit up. We don't like being told what to do, but also please, low key, tell us what to do. Help. And our brains are wired to see the world in a different way. I know my diagnosis, which happened while running this business, changed my whole life. And I don't say that anecdotally. It literally changed everything. It also changed my business for the better because I got curious and started figuring out how to work the way my brain worked. That's what I teach my clients. It's called the spicy minded way. And essentially, that is figuring out what works for you. I've seen how it's changed my clients' worlds, and I know it'll do the same for you. So basically, I'm here to brainwash you into believing in yourself and your next level. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the 3 phases of business, how impulsivity is actually part of your business plan, why simplifying your business will increase your revenue, and a personal road at the end that you're going to be walking on with me this year. So be sure to listen all the way through. From one ADHD human to another, turn the volume up to an 11 and get ready to see yourself in my stories. Plus, you're going to learn a thing or two. So let's fucking go. Welcome back to the ADHD Entrepreneur, the podcast for us adult diagnosed ADHD women who have the audacity to lead and run businesses like the feral bitches we are with an offer suite and revenue to match. My name is Carrie. I'm your host. I'm the chief weirdo of Carrie Out Loud. If you're new here, welcome. I am so glad you found the podcast. And if this episode has an impact on you, could you do me a quick favor? Subscribe, turn on the notifications so you can come back every Wednesday and leave a 5-star review. That helps the podcast find other women like us. And since I understand your ADHD, both personally and professionally, each episode has a few topics. It's all wrapped together in a lovely little bow in a way that speaks to our feral funhouse of a brain. And that is why I do it in random trains of thought. So let's get into today's topics. So there are 3 phases of business. I created a reel the other day and I put this in there and it made me laugh, but it's really fucking true. So the 3 phases are, hooray, I'm learning the rules. Then it's, hooray, I know the fucking rules. And then it's, hooray, I'm breaking the fucking rules. Where are you at in your business? Are you in the beginning phases? I'm learning the rules. Kind of in that middle place where you've been in business for a little while now and you're like, oh, finally kind of sitting in that pocket. And then comes the time where you know the rules so well that you can break them. The water is really warm over here. And when you get to that point where you take off the training wheels and you trust in your own instinct, like we talked about last week, that's when the fun really starts. Because it takes time in your business. You have to go through certain things and you have to learn things along the way of how to do certain pieces or parts of your business. And then there comes a time, there's a turning point where you start to notice you're not looking around you as much for inspiration or motivation. You understand what the rules are and you write your own fucking rule book and it gets to look however you want it to look. And if you're on the border of knowing the rules and breaking them, I highly encourage you, jump on over to the dark side. It's great over here because it gets to look and feel and be however you want it to be. And that is one of the coolest parts of owning your own business. It gets to be fun It gets to be good. It gets to be lucrative. You get to make as much money as you fucking want to. You will have to work for it. But once you find that flow and you start moving that direction and unclog that revenue, fuck the rules helps with that. Right? So if you are feeling stuck, think about it. You know the rules, but are you still looking around you to get things from other humans or look at how other people are doing things and doing things exactly the same way? Or are you trusting yourself that breaking the rules works? Doing things outside the box is how we roll. There will be a time where you want to break free from those things. Perfectionists tend to be rule followers. Perfectionism tends to come into play with ADHD. So if you're like, break the rules, you're probably in the wrong place. That's the whole fucking reason we do business, is because all of the rules of how everything has been done up to this point we don't care or like it. We want to do things a different way. That's why I say we're disruptors. We like to shake shit up. A lot of neurodivergent people are business owners. Let's just be very clear. It's like 30 to 40% of entrepreneurs, somewhere around there, and we're about 3 to 5% of the population. So that will tell you what you need to know. We don't like to follow the fucking rules. So have you broken rules yet? You know them. You know them like the back of your hand. Trust it. Break a rule today. Let me know what it was. How did it feel? Tell me about it. The next train we're hopping on is impulsivity is actually part of your business plan. So the triad of ADHD is impulsivity, hyperactivity, and inattention. Inattention is curiosity, right? So if you take inattention, because where everybody else is looking forward and paying exact attention to this specific thing or the speaker or whatever's going on, we're over here looking around going, what was that? That's not bad. Yes, it can be frustrating at times. Believe me, I understand. I experience it. I literally sit by a window and sometimes have to close the blinds because whatever's happening outside is way more interesting. I see it out of the corner of my eye. Okay. Like that's just a thing. Now, impulsivity is actually creativity. That is how impulsivity is part of our business plan. Creativity is part of our business plan. You cannot plan for when that thought comes into your brain with that new program or that new offer or that new freebie or whatever. That's an impulse. Then you decide which one you're going to pluck out and make it a thing. That's an impulse. We can't control it. It's just a neurological impulse that we have nothing to do with. It's a thought, right? That is a strength in your business. I'm going to say it again. That's a strength in your business. Your creativity, your ability to see things from other angles, or create 5 solutions where other people see walls, or you're walking towards a crisis while everybody else is walking away because you are calm in a crisis. I shit you not. My husband will just be freaked out about something. And I will say, it'll be okay. It's going to work out just fine. We just need to keep moving, like in those moments, right? And he can go off the rails and I'm calm. Now, of course, that's not all the time. I mean, I definitely have my own moments of just, lifing. But I noticed this recently that when something kind of goes that way, I kind of chill out and go, okay, how are we going to fix this? Right into that with my brain, right? So these are all positives and things we get to use to our advantage in our business. It's our edge, right? So this can be channeled into creative decision making, innovation. You could create a program, or I don't know if you perhaps are listening and you have a product that you have been considering in your mind because of an impulse that came to you forever and ever ago. Channel it. You literally can create and do whatever it is you want. The first part of that is deciding to do it and taking your first step towards it. You don't have to know what the road looks like. Just head in that direction, right? And that is what unleashes unique ideas. And when you direct those unique ideas and put them together in a way with self-trust and self-knowing, that's when so much of the magic happens. I just had this happen. I was recording the episode last week. Something in that episode spoke to me. I had another client inside the Neurospicy Sisterhood. We were talking about simplification and how she just said, I just want it to be more simple. I want to simplify everything. This is a common theme because we as people with ADHD, it's like, oh, why would I do something that's simple when I can overcomplicate it? We overthink, we overdo, we overexert. Those are all things that we tend to do. But simplifying it is just such a huge theme. So that came to me, and then I was having a discussion with another woman, another human, and another piece of it fell together, and then whoosh, that idea just came out. It's a program now, less than 24 hours. It's already completely written. That's what I'm talking about. You have to give yourself room for those things to come in. And creativity, that is impulsivity, impulsiveness. It is an impulse. These are good impulses to act on. So yeah, impulsivity gets to be a part of your business plan. It's a main part of why we're able to do what we do and create and think differently and uniquely and from different perspectives than everybody else. We're going to jump on the next train. Why your business gets easier when you create systems that work for your brain instead of against it. One, you're not going against the grain of your brain anymore. You know when something is prickly one direction, but then you touch it the other direction and it's soft? I guess the only thing the only thing I can think of is a cat tongue, but that's the perfect example. If you go with the taste buds, it's smooth. If you go against it, it will prick your finger, like when you get licked by a cat, right? That's kind of what you're trying to do with your brain. You have systems and things in place that maybe somebody taught you or somebody put together or whatever that doesn't work for your brain. So what happens? You are working 10 times harder than you need to be. There are things where systems can talk to each other and you can intertwine them, and it's not crazy to get them to do that. It doesn't have to be difficult. You can create these systems, you can create things that are just like one and done. And then it just works for you over and over and over again. I showed a client how to do that, and it was just so much fun to watch her see what she was going to have access to. Like, she just literally looked mind blown. But that's because she's been doing it the difficult way for such a long time that the concept of the fact that it could be that simple did not register until we were done. And I'm like, you're going to get so many hours back. It's not even funny. Part of the reason why we still continue to work against our brain for so long is that we don't think that anything worth having gets to come easily. You work 10 times harder than others because you think that's what you're supposed to do to keep up. That's what you learned. That's what you were taught. That's what you internalized at some point, and that isn't true. It's about creating systems that your brain says yes to, so you will use them. If you have a system that you just refuse to use, that means it's the wrong one for you, not that you don't deserve that help. There are so many iterations of so many different things in our business in general. You find the one that works the way your brain does. Do you know how much easier that makes shit? So much easier. And watching women's brains click as I'm giving them solutions to these issues they were having, when I give it to them in a way that speaks to their ADHD instead of against it, because we will rebel. Fuck that, I'm not doing that. Right? It gets to be easier. You're allowed to have it easier. And if you are stressed out to the max, if you are on overload all the time and you are working against yourself constantly, that will take you to what I lovingly call burnout township. It's in the middle of somewhere you don't want to be, where all the burned out people go. Part of the reason that burnout happens is because we are sprinting when we can jog. We are smart, we are capable, we are all of those things. But you may have learned differently through the negative messages that you've been told for a lifetime. It doesn't have to be as hard as you think it does in order for it to be successful. You get to have flexibility in your life and fluidity in your life, and you are allowed to lean into automation and systems and things that do certain elements of your business automatically. You set it up one time and it's done. And then when it's time to grow even more, you can hire someone and hand that off. You will get there. So just remember, it is not a requirement for you to work 10 times harder than everyone else to have success. You get to simplify it for your brain. And what's really cool is that I'm creating a program for that. I'm creating a program for that simplification because it's just time. It's just time. I have seen enough and gone through this enough where people are in this weird place in their business. Their revenue is good and their business is going fairly well, but they're definitely leaking time, which is energy, and our energy is not infinite. Our time is not infinite. So where do we actually want to be putting it, right? So that is the key of finding systems that work for you. And if something isn't working for you, I'm sure there are other options for it. Look for them. Find something that speaks to you. It will. Let's say their project management, sites. There's Trello, there's Asana, there's ClickUp, there's Honeybook. There's all of these different systems that you can try to see if it works with your brain. And if it doesn't, you go on to the next, because you will find one that does. You will find one that scratches that brain itch, and it will feel so simple that you're like, am I doing it right? It can't be this simple. Yes, it can. It totally can. Easy is different than simple, right? Business is not easy. It's fun and weird and challenging and wild and all of those things. But it's not always easy. That's just part of life anyway. But it gets to be more simple. You're allowed to simplify your systems so that you're not running around like a chicken with your head cut off all the time on the back end of your business and then slapping a smile on your face and staying all masked up, because that might be what you're doing right now. That doesn't get you anywhere but burnout, township, knock it off. You don't have to do that anymore. I love you. Frying pan of love, right over the head. And the last topic, it's something personal. It's something personal. I have struggled with my weight since I was a kid, since I was young. I had major surgery when I was young. I had my gallbladder removed. And once I had surgery, everything changed. My entire relationship with food just changed. And I remember getting on the scale at Weight Watchers at 11 years old in front of a bunch of grown women and just thinking that it was so embarrassing being stared at while I'm on a scale out in public where everybody can see. And I kind of think I've carried that with me for a really long time. So I have done a lot of different things to help myself with my weight. I'm an avid exerciser. I love going to the gym. I've been at the same gym for like 12 years now. But I have just struggled really hard with weight. And when the GLP-1 medications came out, I just kind of listened a little bit and kept my ear to the ground. And I, have friends who have done it. And my cousin has lost he's lost 50 pounds on it. And, he was pre-diabetic. And so I asked my doctor for a referral to the obesity medicine specialist, and then I let the referral run out. I did not make the call. And then about a month and a half went by. And I think the reason that I've really waited on this is to feel solid in my brain and my mindset, and like I have my both feet on the ground. And I really feel like I'm there. So now that everything in my cranium is much better, now I'm going to work on feeling heavy. I just feel heavy in my body. My knees hurt, my ankles hurt, my back hurts. I know that taking weight off will relieve some of that pressure, and I can't wait. I'm so excited about that part. It's not about aesthetics or to look sexy or anything like that. That's all fine and good, but I want to touch my toes at 80, and I want to be able to live into my later years of life in a healthy way. I want to be healthier. And so I did finally schedule the appointment with a doctor, and I was really fucking nervous because with other medical things in my life, I've been gaslit or told that something I knew to be true wasn't. Like when I was a kid, I had surgery at age 10. And a year later, I went back at 11 and something was really wrong. And the doctors are like, we can't find anything. Like nothing's wrong. They were doing all these tests and they couldn't figure it out. And they told my mom it was psychosomatic until I had a surgery that was 8 hours long. And my gallbladder was in the American Medical Journal. My doctor literally took a fucking Polaroid of it at that time and came out and showed my mom. Oh my God, would you want to see your? No. But anyway, that's a whole other story. But anyway, I then went to get my ADHD diagnosis, and my doctor told me, Miss Lemansky, you don't have ADHD, right? You have anxiety. We just have to get that under control, which I have said on this podcast a million times. And then I waited 14 more months because I, again, trusted somebody else's opinion because they went to medical school over my own gut instinct of what I really knew for a fact in my heart, in my body, in my soul. I understood finally what was going on. Just had to get the medical system on board. And it wasn't about trying to convince anyone I had ADHD. That wasn't it at all. It was finding a doctor, finding a medical professional who was going to actually listen to me and take me seriously and not blow me off. And once I got in the hands of that person, I was diagnosed in 90 minutes. I had done all the pre-work. I had done all the pre-documentation and everything that they have you answer and fill out or your partner fill out. I had done all those things. I booked the appointment. I waited for it. We had the 90-minute appointment. And by the end, he's like, you have ADHD. You have combined type. He just confirmed what already knew to be true. And I wasted 14 months not pushing, right? So this time around, when I walked in to the doctor's office, I literally was expecting to be gaslit because I had a doctor last year, my primary care physician, who I'd had for several years and adored her. And then I went into her to talk about weight, and her personal opinion, she just poured it all over me. And I felt shame and embarrassment when I should feel supported in a moment like that. Willpower, blah, blah, all the other stuff. So I go to the doctor and I sit down, and the literal first things out of his mouth are, I want you to understand that only 2 to 3% of doctors are trained in obesity medicine in the country. Okay. We're talking tiny little fraction. And the rest subscribe to kind of how it is right now. And he told me straight up that he had a bias, just like a lot of other doctors. And in his specialty, he had to unlearn that bias and really understand where weight problems come from. And it's inside of our brain. And so he said, you aren't lazy. It's not willpower. Like all those things that you like, but getting that confirmation was just like, it felt like a freaking miracle. It truly felt like a miracle because I was heard immediately. And I wasn't used to that. So I was totally ready to like be on the defensive, but I didn't have to. He's like, we're going to fix it. We're going to get you there. And he went through all of the questions and ended up putting me on a GLP-1. I had tried oral medication before and it wasn't helping. So we went this route. And when they say, you may hear this if this is something you've looked at or listened to or talked to anyone about, that the food noise, that noise in your brain that's like constantly talking about food, that it turns off. And I'm like, right. I shit you not. Like, it's so low. I now have to really focus and make sure I remind myself to eat. And this is just the second week. And I thought, oh, it'll take a few weeks to kick in. I kind of read it, did a little research. It can literally kick in right away. And the way I know that something has changed, something has changed within me, something has changed, is that the other day I was eating something. Well, my gym bestie Pilar told me, she's like, because she's used GLP-1s and she's like about to go into her maintenance. And she's like, you'll be sitting there and you'll have like food on your plate. And then about a time will go by and you'll realize you only ate half and you totally forgot it was there. I'm like, yeah, I don't forget about food. I'm sorry. Like that just, I don't know if that's something that will happen for me. And it happened yesterday and I started laughing and I'm like, Pilar was right. And this is the lowest dose. So it'll be really cool to see as I progress how much it helps. And the other thing is, I'm not weighing myself in between. I do not care about my gravitational pull to the earth on some scale. That doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is how I feel in my clothes and how I feel in my body and how I feel in the gym. And I used to be obsessed with numbers on the scale. Like who I was and how great I was as a human being depended on the scale. But I learned there's a lot more to it. And so I just wanted to share about this openly with you because a lot of ADHD humans contend with being overweight or being obese. It's a lot of us. I don't know what the reason is. The medical community doesn't necessarily know what the reason is. But if I were to make a deduction that is just an educated guess, it's going to be due to our impulsivity, right? It works to our advantage, but it also can work the opposite way. So in my opinion, just because we have sometimes issue with drugs or sometimes issues with alcohol or sex or road rage or, like big time driving erratically, those types of things, that's all impulse control or impulsivity. And we tend to live 13 and a half years less time than the average human because of factors that we actually have a say over. And that's why when I say, like, when you get an ADHD diagnosis, it's life-saving. For a lot of people, like, it is actually life-saving. And it'll extend their life. So I feel like it has to be related to the impulsivity. Like, we literally have these impulses that feel out of control. And from my understanding, this is kind of a reset, helps your brain learn hunger cues. It slows down your digestion. There are a few things that it does. And I'll keep you posted on how it's going. But so far, no side effects, nothing weird. But I love to share about personal things, not just business here. So I did want to share this with you. And I'm really excited to feel better because mentally I feel so good. And so now it's time to get the outside to kind of line up a little bit more with how I feel on the inside. So I'm very excited. I'm taking you along. So I will mention it from time to time and fill you in. And with that, I'm going to end today's episode. If you loved this episode, subscribe, give it a 5-star review, tell a friend, send a carrier pigeon, drop it in your bestie's DM, and also introduce yourself to me. Tell me, what do you get out of the episodes? What did you get out of this episode? Or what was your favorite episode? I'm a connection queen. Community is everything to me. It's one of my core values. So I always love to hear from you. And until next week, I see you. I love you. And I am fucking rooting for you always. Don't forget to keep it weird. Bye. Oh, hey, you're still here. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. Be sure to check out the show notes for all the ways to follow me. And of course, my goal is to find and help as many women with ADHD get away from the 9-to-5 grind, because it's just not designed for our neurospicy brilliance, and there are other ways to do life. So by subscribing, sharing, and giving a 5-star review, it helps other women find this podcast as well. And if there's an episode you really love, please feel free to take a screenshot and share it on your social and tag me in it so that I can thank you personally. Until next time, you spicy-brained unicorn. Bye.